Welcome to Scary Stories, the channel that tells you scary stories.
Welcome to Scary Stories. We've got 2 new Dogman stories sent in by you, the viewers, including one from one of our paid subscribers. And also, at the end, we have some photos that someone sent me claiming they're Dogman photos. I don't want to get you too excited because I'm not sure I see Dogman in these photos, but I'm just doing my due diligence. I'm going to present them to you and let you decide for yourself. That's at the end, though. First, we've got an all-new Dogman story sent in by one of our paid subscribers, and it's called The Shape of Dogman, as emailed to Peter Bernard by AM, read by your old pal Bigfoot. Dear Scary Stories, if you should use any of this, please don't identify me. However, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. So, I don't tell many people about the things me and my family encountered when I was growing up, and I don't guess this is really a story per se, but I thought you might like to know about this place. It's called Hatch Bend, Florida, and it's located right across the Swanee River from the small town of Branford. Back, I think, in the 60s or 70s, I'm not sure because I wasn't born yet, they took miles of woods and built dirt roads and city lots, thinking it would become a booming residential area. For what reason they thought that, I have no idea. Well, anyway, a few people bought lots and put some trailers here and there sporadically in a few houses, but for the most part, it became a great place for bored teenagers to race up and down the roads. I'm just going to cut to the chase here. I had family that had land and a home near there. When I was a kid, my family owned sulfur, which had been prayed over. I'm not sure exactly how you go about obtaining holy sulfur, but they had, and sometimes they would sprinkle it around the property. Supposedly this was done to keep things away. I might ask, but I was never told exactly what things we were intending to keep away. I think everyone felt it was better not to talk about it to kids. Not until I was a teenager did anybody in my family tell me anything about what was out there. But when they did, this is what they told me. When it rains, or when there's a fog or mist in Hatch Bend, tall, dark, half man, half animal, werewolf-looking beings appear. Some of my family swore they had seen them with their own eyes, so that was the proof they offered me. I wouldn't call anyone in my family a liar, so if they said there were monsters in the fog and mist, I stayed out of the fog and mist. As for the appearance of the monsters, they were what you might expect when someone says they saw a werewolf, a hairy man-like or Bigfoot-like monster, but with a dog's head up on top, and an evil attitude about it. The thing about the dogmen in the fog here in Florida is that some of the people who've seen them describe them as very real, very solid animals. Others, though, describe them as almost translucent. In other words, you can see through them, even though they're not quite invisible. So, none of this seemed very real to me, and I guess I half blocked it out of my mind. It didn't really faze me, and I decided to take a drive out to that forested area they warned me about one afternoon, just to get away from everybody. It was clear out, no rain or mist, so I definitely was not thinking in any way about monsters. I had not driven very far into the forest when I decided to shut off my car and get out. I just sort of leaned against it and took a break to clear my mind. I was just sort of watching the forest, taking in the sights and smells of the thick woods, when suddenly, out of nowhere, I saw a really tall being that did not look to me like a werewolf from the movies. I'm 6 feet, and this was considerably taller than me, so take from that what you will. But, like I said, I was not looking at something that appeared to be a natural animal. In fact, it looked kind of like water, or predator, if you know what I mean. I could see right through it, but it was clearly shaped like a human-ish being. It had the head shape of something much more like a wolf than a man. I watched as this sort of liquid dogman moved behind a tree and peeked out at me. It must have noticed that I could see it. I know I should have been terrified, but I just stood there, watching it. I have no idea why I wasn't as afraid as I should have been, but the thought did enter my mind that maybe it might be wiser to get out of there. So I got back in the car and I drove home. I'm not sure if it was a self-preservation instinct kicking in, or if the thought was put into my head. But in either case, I drove home. I realized that my description of the creature might sound a little science fiction, but something about that entity seemed unholy to me. Maybe I don't just mean that thing, maybe I mean that entire place. I would also like to mention that in spite of this area having more churches than you can shake a collection plate at, there are quite a few cults worshipping, well, let's say worshipping different things than the churches. Now, I'm not talking about purple-haired Wiccan teenage girls or heavy metal guys. No, not like that at all. These cults are more like Manson family kinds of cults. At least, that's what they look like to me, but I guess sometimes looks can be deceiving. I'm certainly not going to try to find out. That's for sure. Maybe these cults have something to do with this translucent dogman. Or maybe it's just a coincidence that they're nearby, but I thought it was worth mentioning. In case a researcher is listening to this and decides to swing by and have a look for themselves, I'd advise dropping by Hatch Bend on a trip to Florida. Who knows, if you're lucky, maybe you'll see the translucent dogman of the Swanee River. Don't go away, we have another dogman story right after this.
Do you have a scary story you want us to read on the show? Just call our voicemail hotline, 804-LIST-SCARY. That's 804-537-2279. And now for something completely scary.
Dogman stole my dog Chow, as told to Peter Bernard, read by your old pal Bigfoot. My wife and I moved into our house last year, and she's expecting our first child now. We have a dog I'll call Fido, and once we moved out to the burbs, we decided to buy dog food the way people outside the city do it, one huge amount at a time. There's a shed in the back, and I put the immense, nearly man-sized bag of dried dog food on some wooden planks, hoping that would keep the food safe from flooding. I closed the door and foolishly thought that was that. The next morning, I went out to the shack to get Fido some breakfast, and was annoyed to discover that the dog food was nearly half eaten already. That was not a cheap bag, so I was very unhappy. Since nothing else was disturbed and the door was closed as I had left it, that meant some human had come in there and stolen the food from us. How stupid could he or she be to steal that much at once? If they had done it more incrementally, I might not have even noticed. Half a bag in one night? They might as well have taken the whole thing. So now, I already suspected all my neighbors of theft, and we had barely moved in. That was just great. I bought a lock for the door, a combination lock, and put it on there, hoping that would put an end to the thievery. No such luck. It was around 3 a.m. when Fido woke me up. He was barking downstairs and acting in a most agitated way. At first I thought he was barking at an owl or a rabbit or something like that, since he wasn't used to living outside of a city apartment. But when I heard glass break outside, I bolted right up in bed. My wife was scared and wanted to call the police. I told her to let me check it out first. She urged me to wait upstairs with her, but I grabbed my Louisville Slugger and made my way downstairs and out back. I saw that the side window on the shack had been smashed in, and it sounded like someone was inside now. Extremely annoyed that we had a neighbor who would go to such lengths just to steal our dog food, I shouted at whoever was inside there that they'd better come out at once, and they'd better have a good explanation for what they were doing in my shack. I tried to sound as tough as I could manage. So, my legs literally slipped out from under me when the guy inside came over and leaned his head out the window to get a look at me. It wasn't a man's head that came out. As you've already surmised, it was a dog's head, but it was connected to an ape-like chest, and I could see enough of the shoulders to understand that this was not an ordinary dog, or coyote, or wolf. This was some kind of werewolf, or dogman. Of course, Dogman. That's why it was stealing my dog, Chow. Needless to say, I beat it back into the house and let that thing eat as much as it wanted to. My wife and I watched and waited, wanting to see how the thing was going to leave. It eventually climbed out of the window. I want to say it nearly flew out. It went out head first, yet never seemed awkward, even though the window was not large, and the animal was very large. This thing looked like it had white eyes. White, glowing eyes. My wife says they were yellow and glowing, but they looked bright white to me. The creature looked black, but my wife says it was either black or a dark brown. We both agree that it had long pointed ears and a long tail. I saw it closer up, and I also saw teeth on the thing. It kind of grimaced at me through that window, and it showed off how long and sharp its teeth were in that instant before I ran back inside like the chicken I am. Anyway, it left after about 15 minutes in the shack and jumped over the back fence to exit. There's someone else's yard over there, but that is in the direction of a preserved wetland, so maybe the dogman was headed for home. By the morning, we checked the dog food bag, and it was nearly empty. My wife and I talked it over because not only did I have to go into town and buy more dog food, I had to figure out where the safest place to store it would be. I wanted to keep it in the house, but my wife literally shouted at me that I better not bring anything in the house that this monster werewolf was interested in. It was terrible that our shack wasn't safe from it, but things could get much worse if the animal decided to break into our house itself. So I felt I had no choice except to reinforce the shack and make it more secure. I bought a few days' supply of dog chow so Fido wouldn't starve. Then I set about soldering metal plates over the 2 side windows of the shack, and I set an iron bar inside each of the front doors, which should make them harder to bash in. Since the dogman hadn't broken the combination lock, I left that in place. Then I set up trap cameras in 4 places, getting different angles on the shack, so that if anyone or anything came prowling around, hopefully their motion should trigger the cameras, and maybe we could get proof of the dogman once and for all. Well, apparently, that's the best way to scare off a dogman, because, at least up to the time I'm writing this, we never saw that creature again. I don't know if it was the cameras, or maybe he just got sick of that flavor of dog food or what, but hopefully, our story of our life with the dogman is over and done with. Trust me, it's no fun at all when dogman steals your dog chow.
OMG, where are you gonna be Thanksgiving weekend? Stuck with your family? Talking about politics? Or will you be having fun at the Northeast Comic-Con in beautiful Massachusetts, USA? Meet Billy West from Futurama. Meet Akira Takarada from Godzilla. Meet legends of the movies and the comic booklets and the TV. Plus, a comedian standing up show starring real comedians, yo. All this, plus an excuse to get away before Uncle Ned starts blaming your generation for everything over the pumpkin pie. That's the Northeast Comic-Con Thanksgiving weekend, presented by the real original Gary Summers from the Antiques Roadshow, yo. OMG, hooray!
Hey, here are some photos sent in that are supposed to be pictures of Dogman. I'm going to go through a few of them. They were all sent in by one person who I don't think wants me to mention her name. If you do, I'll just give the initial B. Sent in by B. They're a viewer. If they want me to mention their name, say so in the comments and I can mention it in the details. Now, I'll be honest, I was trying to get B to call in and narrate these photos herself, which she said she would do, but she didn't do. So I'm running them, but I honestly don't know if this is for real or if this is someone pulling my leg, and I don't mean any disrespect when I'm saying that. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. So, I'm just looking at the darker spots. Here's another photo that they sent in, which said it was taken on a different day. These were taken back in April. I honestly just see leaves and branches and shadows. I don't even see pareidolia, however you say that, in these photos, but I don't mean any disrespect, so that's why I'm presenting them anyway. You can look, and if you can see something, please let me know in the comments what you're seeing at what time you're seeing it, and maybe I can do a bigger zoom in or something like that. But as far as I can see, it's just a tree, or a few trees. See, dark spots, leaves, that's all I'm seeing. Now, this next one does actually have a kind of a pareidolia effect, that it might be some kind of a dog head in it. Let's see if you see it when I see it. And, it's very disorienting to me. I'm not sure which way is up or down or whatever, but I assume we're looking straight ahead. And so I'm going to go down on the bottom and then slide up to the top. And if you guys see anything, please let me know in the comments. Okay, I don't see anything down here. It looks like dirt. It looks like we're looking down here, but I don't think we are. I think we're looking across, and maybe that's a hill that we're looking at with some leaves in front of it. Some grass and dirt. And I don't see any dogman yet. So let's keep going up. Going up, and pretty soon we start to see something. Okay, on the upper left here. Watch on the upper left. This is something that she says is some kind of a creature face there. That might be pareidolia. It does sort of at least look like a face, I guess. I think if I'm seeing what she intends for me to see, I'm not sure. I see 2 pointed ears on top. She then sent me this one, which she said was a close-up. So, but she kind of cuts the ears off if that's what I'm supposed to be looking at. Maybe that's not what I'm supposed to see. Is it a profile? Is it looking directly at us? You know, I'm not really sure what we're looking at here, so I'm not really sure if we're looking at maybe just a tree again or shadows. But if you see a face, please tell me what you see, and if it's what I think I'm seeing. And I'll let it zoom in for a while longer. I guess I'll just let this run out to the end credits. Maybe we should put some music under it. Some staring at Dogman's face in the woods music. No, something scarier than that. Okay, well, see you next time for more scary stories. Oh wait, I should let Chibi say it.
Come back for more scary stories.